It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It is Thursday, March 11th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we'll get some coronavirus updates, we have some question and answer, and of course, because it's Thursday, we have Victory Rhymes by Youngse from South Africa. So, everybody, how are you doing? We have gone to the end of the week. We're at the back half of it, so I hope that all of you are just happy knowing that everything is about to end, right? It's the ending of the week. Hope you guys really enjoyed the Wednesday service last night with your head leaders preaching. I would love to hear how your head leaders did, and of course, I'll talk about it too a little bit tomorrow. Let's get this day started together here on the Morning Star Drive, so keep liking and commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. But of course, this is the members channel, so we have the newcomer channel, which is Espresso with Sky. That is a channel we need the most likes and the liking and the comments. Like, that is the place we need it. We had a vlog. It's probably the best, one of the best vlogs we had so far, like the reaction wise. Tons of comments. Really fun talking with a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are getting a kick out of writing down whether they like cats or dogs or whatever it is. So yes, it's about a terrible time I had running this YouTube channel when I have to deal with my first dislike. Yes, and I go Liam Neeson on people. Either way, so go ahead, check that out. That one is a really popular one right now. Tons of comments, so I hope you guys can join in with that too. And that is the best way to support this channel. Okay, so this Sunday, who are we going to meet? We are going to meet, we're going to go all the way back to America. And we are going to meet someone, I used to be the head leader for the church in New York, and this person is now, I'm not sure, no, they're still in med school, so they're going to be a doctor, one of the elites in Providence. Super thankful she's doing this interview. It is, I'm not going to say the name, but everyone probably knows who it is. Well, if you're in America, it's Hannah Mulvihill. Right? Did I say it right? Mulvihill? Okay, guys. A lot of you in Asia might not know what that last name or what country that's from. I don't know either. So you're going to have to find out. I'm going to ask her in the interview. So, yeah, you'll find out where Mulvihill comes from. Mulvihill. It is Mulvihill, right? All right, either way, super thankful and grateful that she's doing this interview. I was really hoping to get an interview much earlier, but it's the perfect timing right now, so make sure to catch next week's Sunday edition. All right, so what does that mean, guys? It's time to get this featured artist of the day. Who are we going to listen to today on this terrific Thursday, on this terrific, I don't know what to say, guys. I still can't find one for Thursday. Thursdays is thirsty Thursdays? I guess thirsty for the weekend. I don't know whatever it is, right? On this Thirsty Thursday, what are we going to do, guys? Feature artist of the day, we're going to go all the way to New York, and this is Francis Han with his jazz band, and this song is called Astor Place. Second song is from Zeniac of the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and that song is Eternal Self, one of her newest singles. And last but not least, we have Hannah Kim from America with You Know That I Love You. And yep, today's songs are all going to be pretty chill and relaxed, so you guys can just kind of like cruise. If you're cleaning, if you're cooking, if you're driving your kids to school, or if you're on your way to school, whatever it is, just relax and enjoy this member music from around the world. And of course, if anything else, support them, whether you buy their albums, whether you listen to their content constantly, but most importantly, make sure that you keep them in your prayers.
world, it's okay. As long as you know my feelings are true. Do you know that I miss you? Every hour I'm away, listening to the songs that you wrote. I'm leaning into your sweet embrace. I love you to the moon and back. I don't even know how far that is. I just know that nothing could ever express my heart that just can't seem to rest. Do you know when the wind blows and your hair tickles your face? That's when I feel you pulling me close, telling me it's gonna be okay. And even when I cry, you always catch every tear. Whether I'm far or near you, you're always with me everywhere. You said you love me from the east to west, and I don't even know how far that is. But when this world starts spinning too fast, I lean on you, my rock, you're my best. Ah, ah, ah. Do you know that I love you? I pray that you do. To be honest, sometimes I'm scared that you won't know I feel the way that I do. I wanna say that I love you. There's no if, buts, or who. Wherever I am in this world, this one thing stays true. I love you.
And that was Hannah Kim from Americas, particularly in Washington, D.C., and that song is Do You Know That I Love You? Before that, Zeniac from the Paper Music Associates in Korea, and that song is Eternal Self, one of her newest singles. And of course, we have Astor Place, and that's a jazz piece from Francis Han over there in New York. All right, guys, so what does that mean? It's time for us to go take a look at the news happening around the world, and we'll start with the coronavirus updates. In the world, globally, 117.9 million cases, 2.6 million deaths at 2.22%, holding steady. Top 6 countries. Going by, we're going to take these, we always take the top 6 countries. We go by the top 6 countries according to daily infection rates. And that's how we pick these countries every single day, all right? So it is the US with 29.7 million cases. 538,000 deaths at 1.81%. Good news, it's such a big number right now, but if you look at this now, guys, the number's not going up very fast anymore, right? Which is great news. India, 11.2 million cases, 158,000 deaths at 1.4%. Brazil, 11 million cases, 266,000 deaths at 2.41%. Russia, 4.3 million cases, 89,000 deaths at 2.07%. Italy, 3.1 million cases, 100,000 deaths at 3.24%. And Turkey, rounding up the top 6, coming in new and fresh at 2.7 million cases, 29,000 deaths at 1.04%. 2 countries that we always update the mortality rate is Sweden, because they're one of the only countries not to go into lockdown. They're at 1.87%. And then we have Belgium at 2.83%. That used to be at 16%. All right, now let's take a look at the daily infection rates. And we do see some changes again. It's very, very subtle. The U.S. goes back on top, but it's only 45,000 cases in a day, where Brazil's at 36,000. Brazil was on top for about 4 or 5 days. India, 15,000. And then Italy and Turkey at 13,000. And then Russia rounds up the top 6 with 10,000 cases in a day. And guys, those of you who've been keeping up, it is great news when you hear these numbers, because it is so far below of what it was before. So far below. Like, remember guys, in the past, the U.S. alone would be bigger than all 6 of these countries combined. In the past, it would be like 280,000 cases in a day, 45,000, great news, okay? Over here in Southeast Asia, Indonesia has 6,800 cases in a day, and then the Philippines with 3,300. I'm not sure what the reason why the Philippines are going higher and higher, but they're 3,300, and then last but not least, it is Malaysia with 1,500 cases in a day. Good news for us, because the numbers are going they're going down a lot. The latest I've heard is in Malaysia, at the moment, they're vaccinating about 30,000 people a day, which is great news. And their goal is to hit 160,000 people in a day. And that's not going to be until stage 2. So for now, it is good that it is getting off the ground. And most likely, hopefully, the borders will start opening, further down the line, right? Now, let's get into some news, the top 3 news that I found today. We're going to start off with the U.S. So, it's new U.S. guidelines say that fully vaccinated people can meet without masks. Great news, right? So the U.S. CDC has announced that fully vaccinated Americans can return to some sense of normalcy, and those who have received the required jabs can visit with other vaccinated people and some unvaccinated people, according to the new guidelines. So people are considered protected 2 weeks after they take the final dose of their vaccine. And over 30 million Americans have been fully vaccinated thus far, and I believe around 92 million have received at least one vaccination shot. So health officials announced the new safety guidelines at Monday's White House coronavirus task force briefing, and the recommendations say fully vaccinated Americans can do 4 things. Number 1 is meet indoors with other fully vaccinated people without masks or social distancing. 2, they can meet indoors with unvaccinated people from a single household if they are at low risk for severe illness from the virus, so most likely under 50 years old with no pre-existing conditions. And then number 3 is skip testing and quarantine, or quarantine when exposed to the coronavirus unless symptoms appear. So it's only 3. But the 4th thing is they should continue to avoid non-essential travel, large crowds, continue to wear face coverings, and maintain social distancing in public. And the CDC said there was still a risk of vaccinated people could spread the disease to the unvaccinated, as data on this remains sparse. The new guidelines in particular call for mask wearing and distancing from those who are unvaccinated and may be at an elevated risk of serious COVID-related complications. So even if you look right now, the daily reported cases and deaths in the U.S., they are dropping like significantly, right? So the CDC senior advisor told reporters they've described what a world looks like as we move beyond coronavirus. As more and more people get vaccinated, the list of activities will continue to grow. So the U.S. has seen a recent uptick in the number of inoculations per day. So over 90 million vaccines have been administered to date, and the approval of a 3rd vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson single-dose jab, to join Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech has also helped to boost supply. But health officials warn that the coronavirus is still a serious concern, because if you think about it, only 10% have received 2 inoculations, right? 2 jabs, because there's only 30 million people that have gotten both, but 90 million received at least 1, right? So 90% of the population still has not been vaccinated. And the responsibility is to make sure that in the context right now, there's about 45,000 cases a day, that we protect those who are vulnerable. And the U.S. has reported, yes, we're about 30 million cases at the moment, with about 38,000 deaths. And the guidance, it's going to continue to update as time goes on, as more people get vaccinated and science and evidence expands. So it's a very hopeful time right now in the U.S. However, there are some other doctors that call this a missed opportunity. So there is a doctor, a public health expert, and the former Baltimore Health Commissioner, Dr. Leana Wen, told the Associated Press that guidance was too cautious, like far too cautious. And they said the CDC was missing a major opportunity to tie vaccination status with reopening guidance. So by coming out with such limited guidance, they are missing the window to influence state and national policy. So last week, Mr. Biden said the U.S. would have enough coronavirus vaccines for every adult by the end of May. So it is quite interesting how things are going. But, it's great news, guys. People who are vaccinated, which makes sense, right? If you're going to meet other other vaccinated people, you don't need to social distance, and you don't need to like wear masks, and you can go into indoors in the same house. But other good news in the U.S. basically is that the U.S. coronavirus death toll is below 1,000, right? It hasn't been like this since November of last year. And even though there's like almost 30 million infections and 538,000 deaths for almost 4 months, now the U.S. is under 1,000 deaths a day, right? And which is great news, and that's why you see the numbers aren't ballooning up anymore, right? So if you look at last week, there's I believe it was not last week, this week, I think Monday and Tuesday, it was around 749 people died from the coronavirus, far below the peak of 4,400 in a day, right? So it's very, very low right now. 4,400 was the peak. 4,473 people in a day was January 12th, right? And the daily U.S. death toll has not been below, since November 29th, when 822 people died in a 24-hour period. So, it is great signs what's happening right now. Right, over 92 million people have been inoculated against the virus in the U.S. and 30 million have had both jabs. Right, so those are some good news happening in the U.S. The second thing I wanted to talk about was Myanmar, the protests in Myanmar. And there were barricaded Myanmar protesters, and they had this tense standoff, but they were finally allowed to leave. So hundreds of Myanmar protesters barricaded within one district in the city of Yangon have been allowed to leave after an overnight standoff, which saw police and other government troops violently cracking down on anti-government demonstrations, detaining dozens, and reportedly breaking into homes to question residents. Now, activists told the Reuters news agency on Tuesday that several protesters had been able to leave after being trapped by security forces in the Sanchong district, while social media posts from demonstrators said they were able to slip out in the early morning after police left the area. So there were youth activists that were reporting to Reuters on Tuesday that they were trapped in a building with about 15 to 20 other people, but then they're now able to go home. And there's also been reports of at least 50 people in another area being detained without warrants late on Monday and into Tuesday morning that were released. And images posted on social media showed individuals in handcuffs surrounded by police and security forces in combat uniform. So reports are saying that security forces reportedly searched homes, fired guns and stun grenades as they threatened residents with punishment against anyone caught giving shelter to the protesters. And a nighttime curfew has been in place for weeks. So later on Tuesday, there have also been reports of detentions of at least 50 protesters, including young women in the southern city of Mayak in the Taninthari region. Right. So earlier, the UN chief, Antonio Guterres, called on security forces to observe maximum restraint in dealing with the protesters. And, many of those people who are trapped are women who are peacefully marching in commemoration of International Women's Day. Right. So according to the UN Human Rights Office, police began shooting and making arrests in the country's largest city late on Monday. And the U.S. Embassy in Yangon called on the security forces to withdraw and allow people to go home safely. And the standoff followed another day of violence in which 2 protesters were killed in Kachin State and one in another region just west of Yangon, right? So one of the biggest places that are being targeted right now in Myanmar is the media and opposition. So the generals of the coup have also stepped up pressure on the media, with security forces raiding overnight the Yangon offices of the Myanmar Now news agency, seizing computers and other equipment, according to news websites in Myanmar. And there's another news also confirmed that its license to publish and broadcast was revoked by the military government alongside 4 other independent media outlets, and it said it would not be cowed and would continue to report. So those are a couple of other things that are happening right now. It's already been affected for about 7 days, a lot of these independent media outlets, right? So the Deputy Asia Director of Human Rights Watch denounced the move on Tuesday as outrageous and unacceptable. And then they said this ban is clearly a part of a much larger military junta assault on freedom of the press and the ability of journalists to do their jobs without harassment, intimidation, or arrest. So Tuesday afternoon, it was also reported that the co-founder of another media group and another colleague had been arrested, and these are the people that have been broadcasting messages from the popular opposition figure of the military. So those of you know the Myanmar protests, or like the coup, Myanmar's been in turmoil since February 1st, right? When they they pulled the coup, and the leader was basically put into house arrest. So the police and military have responded with increasingly brutal crackdowns on demonstrators, with more than 50 people killed and more than 1,800 arrested, according to the latest figures from the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, which has been monitoring the detentions, right? So Yeah, it's getting pretty crazy over there. We need to really pray for Myanmar. I know that Myanmar, I know there are many people from Myanmar here in Malaysia. I'm not sure where else, but we've got to make sure that things work out really well. And maybe, hopefully, other countries will kind of wake up and allow them to, what's the right word? They'll allow them to, allow there to be civil rest. Like the civil unrest will turn to peace. Okay. So last but not least, here on today's top 3 news for the day in the world, we're going to go into Brazil. And they basically said because of the coronavirus, hospitals in Brazilian cities are close to collapse. Right? So health systems in most of Brazil's largest cities are close to collapse due to the coronavirus cases. A report by the country's institute warns. And the Rio de Janeiro-based institute said more, it's called the Fiocruz Institute, right? This Rio de Janeiro-based institute said more than 80% of intensive care unit beds are occupied in the capitals of 25 of Brazil's 27 states. So on Tuesday, the country recorded 1,972 coronavirus deaths. It's a new daily record. And Brazil has recorded more than 266,000 deaths, like over 270,000 now, and 11 million cases since the pandemic began. It has the second highest number of deaths in the world after the US and the third highest number of confirmed cases. And according to Fiocruz Institute, 15 state capitals have ICUs that are at more than 90% capacity. Right? And that's included in Rio de Janeiro, Brasilia, and Sao Paulo. Now, 2 cities have already exceeded ICU capacity, and in its report, it warned that figures pointed to the overload and even collapse of the health systems. So the fight against the coronavirus was lost in 2020, and there is not the slightest chance of reversing this tragic circumstance in the first half of 2021. This is what the Fiocruz epidemiologist Orellana said, quoted by the AFP news agency. And they were quoted, "The best they can do is hope for the miracle of mass vaccination or a radical change in the management of the pandemic." So today, Brazil is a threat to humanity and an open-air laboratory where impunity in management seems to be the rule. So last week's experts told the Valor Economic newspaper that deaths would soon surpass 2,000 a day, and they warned that the only way to avoid this was if the federal government took over national coordination of the fight against the virus, recommending lockdowns, the use of masks, and a mass vaccination drive. So more than 8 million people have had their first vaccination so far in Brazil, representing just about 4% of the population. And on Tuesday, the country also recorded more than 70,000 cases, a 38% increase on last week, according to local media. So the recent rise has been attributed to the spread of a highly contagious variant of the virus thought to have originated in the Amazon city of Manaus, okay? So despite all these things happening, President Bolsonaro has continued to downplay the threat posed by the virus, and earlier this week he told people to stop whining, right? And speaking at an event, he said, "How long are you going to keep crying about it? How much longer will you stay at home and close everything? No one can stand it anymore, so we regret the deaths again, but we need a solution." So a number of quarantine measures have been taken by regional governors, which Mr. Bolsonaro has opposed, arguing that the collateral damage to the economy will be worse than the effects of the virus itself. Okay, so those are the top 3 news of the day. I hope it kind of once again opens our eyes to what is happening over there in the world, which means it brings us into a time, a more of a spiritual time, right, guys? So it's a spiritual time, so we're going to have a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. So as one body, we're going to sing a couple songs. First is "The Lord is my hope and joy." Amen, and that is true. And then my beloved is the best. Amen. And then, especially with the last couple of weeks, in order for us to do things perfectly, in order for us to do things diligently, we must do what? We must entrust it to the Lord, and that will be the third song for today. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let us spend this time giving glory and praise to the Holy Trinity.
Life without the Lord, how could we live? No one could live like that. Without fun, without hope, oh, what kind of life is that? Since the Lord is my hope and joy, I'll always follow. The Lord is my pride. Here's the source of my confidence. I think of Him everywhere that I go, hoping I can tell someone
words of the times and of the Lord they'll not know, but remain in ignorance until they are told they will not know at all. As one who knows, I will surely tell the world, tell them the truth, testify for him, then they will know. My Lord once spoke to me, to my heart. My love, testify to all of the world. Please, love, testify for me. Then the Lord God will be with you, speaking through your lips every day. You will be moved by the Spirit, she'll enlighten you. Life without the Lord, how could we live? No one could live like that. Without fun, without hope, oh, what kind of life is that? Since the Lord is my hope and joy, I'll always follow. The Lord is my pride. He's the source of my confidence.
My beloved, you're the best. All of you sing so well, and you dance so well. No one can compare to you. They're nothing special, never doubt it. You don't need to check. I love you, listening to me. Since you hear and follow so well, though I search all the world, could I find anyone as great as all of you? There are none who can even come close. You're the best.
Entrust all your fears to the Lord, all your cares and burdens. The Lord cares for you. He shall come to your aid. When the time comes, He'll reach out. He shall raise you up higher. When the time comes, the Lord God's hand will guide your path. For His tree and for His will, He'll use you for the right work. And today, through the Spirit, it will be inspired to help you. If you entrust your life only to the Lord. Right to live with Him in His time. Trust and wait till the end. Wait for your time. Self-centered thoughts lead you astray. Those thoughts will block your path. They will always hold you back. Once again, give your whole life, entrust your life and surrender everything. For the Lord God knows the best. Till the end, He will lead you on the path of life. For the Lord God knows the best. Till the end, He will lead you on the path of life.
And that was Entrust It to the Lord. I haven't heard that song in a long time. I'm glad. You guys, if you have any requests, go ahead and make sure you make these requests, whether it's for praise songs or the songs of the day. I would love to hear them too, okay? And before that was My Beloved is the Best. And of course, The Lord is My Hope and Joy. All right, guys, so we're going to go into a time of word study for today. And of course, today is Thursday, which means Thursday is a time of question and answer. And I do take a lot of questions from people every week, all the time. Okay, so I'm going to talk a couple things. I'm going to talk about, this one particular question I had from lecture training that I was doing a couple days ago. And the question came down to I was teaching about resurrection because we started the core eight lessons, and I was teaching about resurrection. And of course, I was talking to people like, okay, guys, so when I talk about resurrection, it's something that's much more sensitive to Christians more than non-Christians, right? So when you think about it, Christians hold on to the resurrection like it is, well, basically, it is one of the central tenets of Christianity. Without the resurrection, there is no hope. And of course, because they don't know the difference between the different types of deaths, right, and what God really wants to do, it kind of makes it difficult for them to understand the spiritual resurrection, because they're like basically all their hopes in their life is hanging upon this Jesus overcoming death, but a physical death. Okay, so. One of the questions, I was speaking about the resurrection, and then one of these questions did come up. And the question that did come up was about when it came down to when Jesus comes to bring people, and to resurrect people, right? And one thing that people will talk about, or Christians do bring up, is about the new heaven and the new earth. Right? So it's like, oh, there's supposed to be a resurrection. And one of the reasons why they believe in a physical resurrection is because the world is supposed to be destroyed and a new heaven and new earth is supposed to be made. So even if, like, when Jesus comes back, everyone comes back into their bodies and they move to a new heaven and a new earth, right? So that's why the physical resurrection seems more plausible, because they're expecting a new heaven and new earth. So it's like, oh yeah, but because I was explaining that it was kind of ridiculous if you think about it, that people who people believe in Jesus go to heaven, but then at the second coming, then everything is destroyed, and then we move to a new heaven, new earth, which means that we're all dead in our bodies, right? And then no one really complains and says that, oh, the body's coming back to life. Like, that's why everyone's gonna bury them 6 feet under. Right? Everyone understands that. But we're not thinking like this, like the body's going to go up to heaven. So all these people die, right? So tons of people are dying, and we see them, and their body goes in the ground, and then we believe that their spirits go up to heaven. So if we're believing in a physical resurrection when the Lord's second coming comes, that means that all these spirits that have died would have to go back into their bodies, and then the world gets destroyed, and all these people in their bodies will go to a new heaven and new earth, right? So it does sound very physical, right? Because of course they go back in the body, because God's going to make a new heaven and a new earth, okay? So the new heaven and new earth is a very interesting concept that is brought out not just by Christianity, but also by Judaism. And one of the things that we do one of the things we may not teach as much is that the new heaven and new earth is also a prophecy for the first and second coming. So in the first coming too, you're going to see that Jesus was supposed to fulfill this. It's in Isaiah chapter 66, verse 22. It says that the expectation when the Lord comes, which is the first coming, that there's going to be a new heaven and new earth. And then all of a sudden, in the second coming, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 10 to 13, verse 13 also says we have expectation for a new heaven and a new earth, right? So a lot of people, not just in the world, but even in Providence, don't recognize that this is actually an Old Testament prophecy, right? One of the things that we do have to understand is we are almost in the exact same situation as the Jews in the past, because they were waiting for new heaven and earth. They were waiting for fire. They're waiting for clouds. They're waiting for everything to happen. And when it actually happens, is not according to their expectation, right? So here in Christianity too, many of those Christians that do say we're expecting a new heaven, new earth, that's like in Revelation chapter 21 and 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 13, like, it does say there's a new heaven, new earth. So like, no, it's going to happen, new heaven, new earth. But we need to show them first that this was something that was already prophesied for the first coming, but it never literally physically happened, right? So if Isaiah 66:22 says that there's a new heaven, new earth, like the old heaven and earth will be destroyed by fire, and that's in verse 15 and 16, and then you go a couple of verses to 22 says we're in expectation of a new heaven and new earth, then the thing we have to think to ourselves is, okay, well, did it happen in the time of Jesus? Now, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 does say that Jesus came to fulfill the law and the prophets, which includes Isaiah 66, verse 22, not to abolish them. So he had to do something with that, but we all understand that physically speaking, nothing was destroyed, right? There wasn't even like a physical fire that came at the time of Jesus. And we need to understand is like, so then how did Jesus do this? Now, this is the point that becomes really amazing is, because truth is truth, it should be connecting and it should be working. It works through everything. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that we need to go back to the story of the fire. So remember this, guys. If you think that the fire is literal and physical, then the earth and the heavens are going to be destroyed. Well, technically speaking, you couldn't destroy heaven with the physical fire, right? Obviously. But in this case, if the physical fire came and destroyed the earth, then we expect a new earth that is created by God, and then we'll come in with our new bodies, physical bodies, and go to that new earth, right? However, we're teaching that it is no longer the physical fire that God is coming to judge with, but the ultimate judgment is a judgment of the word, right? So then we have to go back to, okay, so if the fire is the word and no longer a physical fire, then the physical earth is not going to get destroyed. But then the next question comes up is, how the heck do you destroy the earth with the words? Right? The heavens and the earth, how do you destroy it with words? Because words can't destroy the earth, right? And that is because we need to realize, I think once again, is how did Jesus create a new heaven and new earth when there's no literal fire? And the answer is, it is just like resurrection, just like fire and clouds. It is a parable or it is a spiritual phenomenon. Right? So if Jesus came and preached the words, what happened? If people believed in those words and they believed in God and believed in Jesus, then what happens to them? Then they change into a new time period and they become children of God, right? So what is happening? How is the old earth and the old heaven destroyed? Well, in the time of the New Testament, what happens? In the Old Testament, the heavens is where God is, and the earth is where people are. In the Old Testament time, the earth and the heavens is, well, God, in the heavens perspective, the heavens is like, for instance, example is the relationship of a master, and the earth is a relationship as a servant, right? But when Jesus preached the words, what did they realize? It shatters and destroys, like fire, it completely burns up their thoughts that God is a master, and it burns up and destroys the thoughts that they are servants. And instead, a new heaven, new earth. A new heaven is the way they look at heaven and the way they look at earth. The way they look at heaven, God is now their father, and the way they look at themselves is now they are children of God. So there's one of the biggest ways that you see how the old heaven and earth are destroyed by words, right? Because it changes perception in the mind. It's a spiritual phenomenon more than anything else, right? So this would happen in the exact same way when it comes to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 13, that in that time, what's happening? It's already happening right now, where we hear the new words of the complete testament, and it completely changes the way we think. And we don't look at God as a father anymore, but we look at him as the bridegroom, and then we look at ourselves no longer as children, but as brides of this history, right? So when we look at this, it is already happening again. And this is the reason why this is so amazing, is because a lot of times people try to interpret one thing, but then it doesn't fit with something else in the Bible. But here, like when Sunsteam said this week's message is perfect, like the doctrine is perfectly interpreted. Think about it. We just talked about fire, and that fire also explains the same thing of new heaven and new earth, right? It all fits together. So I hope it's something that you guys can really appreciate how perfect the words are and the interpretation of the words are, right? And then we'll be, as long as we get to master the words really well, then it will change the way that we think and we feel. Okay, awesome. So that is today's question and answer. I hope that helps you guys out a lot too, because these are really, really good questions, and people are going to ask us these questions. And as long as we know the answers, this helps us to help others understand and not misunderstand providence either. Okay. All right, guys, that is the end of today's question and answer, which means we're going to get into one of my, of course, one of my favorite parts of today is always on my podcast is the song of the day. Now, today's song of choice is such a favorite of mine because, I like boy bands, right? And Backstreet Boys' favorite of all-time favorite of all, boy bands, okay? Crazy says... this crazy thing here is, I like, the song I Want It That Way. I was like, oh, this is so cool. But I was checking out for some covers, and I found this group on YouTube called Scary Pockets. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of them. Scary Pockets is like a funk fusion band, and they transform pop songs and make it into funk and fusion, right? They put their own unique spin on it. It's like an indie funk group created by two people, right? And Ryan Lerman and Jack Conte. And those of you who don't know Jack Conte, the reason why I'm so thankful about Jack Conte is one of the founders of Patreon. Surprising, yeah, crazy, right? So they're creating this imperfectly perfect music, right? And it's so good, guys. This is like, I've never heard I Want It That Way in this funk sound. So I really, really enjoyed it, and I wanted to share it with you guys, right? So this is Scary Pockets covering the Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way. Yeah.
am I your fire, your one desire? It's too late. I want it that way. Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why. Ain't nothing but a heartache. And tell me why. I never wanna hear you say I want it that way. Now that I see that we're falling apart, then it's more than it used to be. Yeah. No matter the distance, I want you to know that deep down inside of me, you are my fire, the one desire. You are, you are. Don't wanna hear you say I'm not gonna hear you say it's nothing but a heartbreak, 'cause I want it that way. Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. You got to say. Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. You want it that way. Tell me why, tell me why, tell me why, tell me why. You say I want it that way.
All right, guys, tell me that was wild. That was wild version of I Want It That Way. It was raw. It was funkadelic. I was like, this. I could dance to this. This had such an amazing groove, guys. You gotta check it out. Their YouTube channel is called Scary Pockets. If you like this type of, they take all the pop songs. Like, I'm serious. They take the songs that are slow or whatever it is, and they just totally funk it up. I love it. So I'm going to play some more of the songs, like, later on in the future too. I really, really like them. That's Scary Pockets. Okay. All right. So this is Thursday, guys. So what does that mean? It means it is time for us to enjoy another episode of Victory Rhymes with Youngse from South Africa. Hope you guys are enjoying this, and let's listen to Victory Rhymes.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Victory Rhymes, the collection of resurrected poetry written by the brides of this history. And presented by me, I am Youngse. I am South African, but I am currently living in Korea. This week, the Lord gave us a fiery and perfect message about being perfect, just as God is perfect. And I felt so encouraged after listening to this message. And something that really stood out to me in this message was that Sangsim said countless times, you can do it. It's possible. If you do it, it will work. He didn't just tell us to be perfect and just be perfect and do it by yourself, but he is also our biggest cheerleader. And it's so amazing and encouraging for me as someone who easily overthinks sometimes and then I'm so perfectionistic, so then I doubt myself, second guess it's good enough, but then I hear Sangsim's voice just saying, you can do it, it's possible. If you do it, it will work, just do it. And then it's so amazing. And he didn't just told us that we should do it by ourselves, but he told us that we can't do it by ourselves. We have to do it together with the Trinity and the Lord, and then we can do it. However, it's when we forget the word and we don't converse with the Trinity and the Lord that we struggle and we get so discouraged, and we feel like we just that those negative thoughts start coming, saying like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Actually, you can't, and you've been deceived thinking you can even do this. Like, what are you doing? You can't, just give up now. But I recently experienced this week, actually, just to share a very short testimony with you guys. I was preparing to preach the morning message, and I was just amazed by the word. The word was so amazing, and I kept countless times. Sansim said, "You can do it. You can do it. It's possible. If you just do it, it will work." And then, as I was preparing the message, suddenly I just, out of nowhere, became so tired, to the point that my eyes got blurry and my mind was so fuzzy I couldn't focus. And it was so strange, because one moment I was just focused on the message, I was really on fire, and the next moment it felt like someone just pulled the plug out, and I was like, what just happened to me, and how am I gonna do this? And I am very perfectionistic, but I also love the word so much, so I want to do it, deliver it, and prepare the message with leaving no regrets, and then and then I kept going, because even though I started feeling like that bad, and I started doubting myself, and this is something talk about the 3 to 4 meters that is just not paved yet, and so the car cannot travel. And so my 3 to 4 meters was like being too hard on myself, and then because I'm struggling physically, I started struggling mentally too, and then started thinking, oh, can I even do it? Like this is, I was thinking, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or like, I don't know, it's like started just like being too hard on myself, and it's just made such a, I think Satan really attacked me at the time. But then I didn't give up, because I kept hearing Samson's voice. You can do it. You can do it. If you do it, it will work. It doesn't work when you don't do it, so you should do it, and it works. And then I kept conversing with the Lord and Holy Spirit, and I kept doing it, and I just kept receiving so much strength from the word. But I was really attacked by Satan, thinking I'm lacking, and like this is so lacking, and I wasn't able to do it to my heart's content, because I was so struggling. And then I was really struggling, and then the next morning got off a pre-dawn, and then immediately I opened my eyes, and Satan already attacked me with this like negative thought that I didn't do it properly because I was struggling. But I was struggling for hours, just driven forth by the strength that the Lord has given me through the word. And then I just got up, and I told Satan to shut up, and I prayed with all my determination, destroying Satan's, and really prayed with all my heart and all my strength. And then I preached the message, and just before I started preaching the message, I felt this warmth of the Holy Spirit with me, and I thought, wow, preaching the word is the greatest joy on earth. And I preached the message, and then afterwards it was amazing, because afterwards I got such great feedback from the members who listened to the message. And I thought, what? I struggled that much. If they could have seen me, they would have understand what a miracle it is that I could deliver the message. And how shocked I must be, like, that they received that much grace. But I realized, like, boom, yes, like, if you just do it, it will work. And that is, like, through this experience, I realized the power of the word again. And I realized, like, the word is what pushed me forward, and the conversations with the Lord and with the Holy Spirit, conversing. But if I give in to those thoughts, of course I would just fail. So I realized that the word is so powerful. So sorry, this is supposed to be a poetry section, but it seems like we're gonna go, it's kind of like a testimony section with a little bit of poetry at the end today. But it's the year of doing things in a new way. But I want to get to the poem, and I'm gonna tell you how I'm gonna connect this poem today. I could do it because I've just heard the word in my mind, and I felt really a lot of strength from that, and the Lord cheering for me, and I realized, like, wow, in my everyday life, when is it that I struggle? It's when I forget to converse, when I forget to do it together. Preparing that morning message was not something I was supposed to do alone at all. Like, the Lord was with me, cheering for me, doing it together, and whether I'm struggling or not, He's gonna be there with me. And in my daily life, when it gets hard, like negative thoughts or struggling in your heart, it really sucks when you're trying to do it alone. It just feels like impossible to pave that last piece of the road when you do it alone. But I realize when do I have the most strength and hope is when I converse with the Trinity and the Lord, and when I do it together. So I want to share a poem that I've written, being inspired by Angstnim explaining to us how we should really call God first and converse with God first. So I'm going to share this one with you guys today, and it goes like this. You call me hundreds and thousands of times per day. How many calls have I missed? I walk oblivious to the fact that your heart yearns to talk to me. We become close when we talk, when I receive your words and respond. But how sad it is when I don't even flinch, even though you call. There is not much as sad as no response. I'm sorry for all the times you called, but I didn't stop to listen. However, when I call, you respond immediately. You hear, you know, you always react. How interesting is our relationship? When you call me, I don't hear. When I call you, you say, yes, dear. Oh, I see. You are spirit, I am body. You're always ready to talk, so all I should do is call you first as we walk. And I'm gonna share a bonus one on the same topic with you guys. I'm busy trying to set the condition of writing 100 poems this year, inspired by Sangsim's condition. And one day I wrote this poem. Those who think you are far scream and shout with sweat and tears in an effort to reach you. They say it's difficult and want to give up. But those who know that you are close, their hearts are comfortable as they whisper in your ear. Yes, and so those are the two poems I share with you guys, being inspired by the conversations we have with the Trinity. So I hope you have a really great day, doing things perfectly while conversing with the Trinity and the Lord, doing it together with them. That's when it's hopeful and then you gain strength. So as always, if there is anything you have written that you want to share to Victory Rhymes, please send it to me through the email in the description. And that's it for today, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'll be back again next week. This is Youngse. Goodbye.
And thank you so much, Youngse, for another wonderful episode. There was no poetry today, but there is a deep realization from it. So I hope you guys can respond and comment to her what she talked about today. Awesome, amazing. Thank you once again, Youngse, for always doing this each and every week. It takes a lot of commitment to do this, but I'm so thankful that you're doing it. All right, guys, what does that mean? That is the end of today's podcast. Hope you guys really, really enjoyed it. And that means tomorrow is Friday, the end of the week, which means we are so happy because when we hear tomorrow's podcast, it means that it is the end. And right around the corner is 3:16, right? All right, guys, have an amazing day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head